Yeah, but business in
more.
general, no. And I always wish that I have a degree in business, or like I always wish that I have some background in business. But sometimes it's good to not know, because then you do it the way it works for you. There's no one way to do things, and I like how I do it, because I'm very team driven. I'm people driven, and initially, I remember one time I asked my sister. I said, "You know what? I think it's easier to be a PITCH boss, because because then people listen to you and people don't step all over you." And she goes, "Tas, why do you want to be something negative? Why not be you and be kind, and then you'll attract your tribe, and then those are the people that are meant to be with you." So it's feeling your way throughout. I think, even in design school, when I came out, I realized nothing I learned in school is relevant to what I'm doing. And it's okay to learn along the way. But no, I had no experience in business, and whatever I've learned from the people around me, or my experiences, or my father, or I think that's important as well. Releasing your ego and understanding that you don't know everything, and keeping yourself updated as well, like talking to new entrepreneurs, keeping yourself relevant in terms of technology, which I'm horrible at. But at the end of the day, understanding the essence of what your true joy is in the business.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. And then I guess a related question, Sanya would like to know, what was one of the most difficult processes when you were starting out? And what do you prioritize when you were starting?
Wow.
At the start. Yeah.
What did I prioritize? Branding, and what actually my business is about. I think, sorry, what's the first part of the question?
What was one of the most difficult processes when starting out?
I think most difficult is just not knowing anything, and starting from scratch, and also having to put my trust in people who I don't know, which then later on I realized I need to have boundaries with my trust as well. But I had to, because I didn't know how to do things. I had to trust that whatever the person is saying, the people that I hire knew what they were doing. I think that's very important, to trust the people that you hire, but not fully, but trust that they know what they're doing, and like trust that if I put my trust in them, and if I trust my team, things will run. But also being there to supervise and to watch how things are going. Most difficult part was not knowing, and having to be open to trying things out. I think it was very much trial and error, a lot of error, a lot of trying. And also the difficult part was bad reviews, and then also understanding that it's not personal. I used to cry whenever I get like one bad review, or like people write mean things, and I was so affected by it. I took it on to myself. But then later on, realizing that you can't make everyone happy. It's important that people, of course, come to your shop, but not everyone's going to be happy with the way you do things, and that's okay, because nobody, it's like personally, not everyone likes you, and that's okay too, right? So that's what I found hard, for everyone not to like me, and for me to be able to not know how to do things and still go ahead. I feel that those were the difficult things to do. And what do I prioritize? I prioritize my people, and I prioritize being okay with not knowing, I feel, and winging it.
Okay. We do have still quite a bit of time, and we have some more questions coming in. So we have one. How do you know when to branch out your business?
Oh man, I think I branched out too fast, and also I branched out 2 years after my first one. I think when to do it, it's like having a second child. Sometimes the opportunity You'll never be ready to open another one, but when it's important, what things are important to have on hand before opening another one is proper SOPs and proper methods and proper ways of procedures of doing things, and making sure that you got your menu together and you've got your team together. But there's no perfect time for it. It's always when opportunity arises. Someone will ask you, hey, why don't you open there? And you go like, oh, that's a pretty good idea, So I don't think I ever planned specifically, yeah, okay, now's the time to open another one. Maybe a lot of big businesses do, but for me, because I know I have to run it myself, it's, do I have the capacity to be able to? But then also when opening 3 of the same places, I realized that when I had 3 fikas, I realized it's not better to have more. It doesn't mean it brings you more money, because you kind of dilute, your audience, and they have different places to go. So more doesn't mean better. Yeah, more money means better, but does it really? So also having the understanding of what do I want in my life? Do I want more money, or do I want more time for myself? So that's also something to think about.
Very important questions to reflect on. And then we have another one about how did you earn the money to start your business? So starting capital, how do you make it happen?
I was lucky to have my father. I didn't even have to think of it. I'm blessed in that way that I had my dad to think about the finance bit of it. So I was just operations to start with. But we managed to make back whatever we put in 5 months, and we broke in 5 months of starting Fika. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to answer that. But I would say to open an FMB, you would need at least about 80 to 100,000 to start.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, very real information. Okay, and then we have one more. In terms of updating yourself, how do you start off? Where do you go to for proper research and information?
Ooh, proper. I'm never very proper. I'm so like, if other people are doing that, I'm doing this. Where do I go? I do courses online. So I go to the eCornell University, and I did a certification in food and beverage management. I also get, like maybe 5 years ago, I got a life coach, because I thought, if I keep going through the same issues and having the same problems again and again, then the common denominator is me. It's not anyone else. It's how I manage myself. So bringing it back to yourself as well, and and trying to learn about yourself is important as important as learning about your business, because you are your business, right? And who better to start with than yourself, because you're the only one you can control. So that's why I wanted to learn about that bit. And then in terms of I never learned things that it's not important to me to learn things that is related to my business, because I always find it's kind of boring, because I do my work every day. I want to learn other things. So, but I have the luxury to do that, because now my businesses run on their own. So perhaps I'm taking that for granted too. Crap, but this year my focus is in learning is I want to learn to be able to be a therapist. I've always wanted to be a life coach, because I feel like I connect with people very well, and that's my thing. I love people and I love helping people. So this year I'm working together with a wellness company to learn therapy. So I'm going to London to learn a course on that as well. So I feel like that learning that as well would be relevant to how I manage my team. So I feel like learn anything and everything. And how do I do research? I talk to my other friends who have FMB. I'm like, babe, how much you earn yesterday? Hey, that day when they had a lockdown, how much you earn? 100? Yeah, me too. Okay, so not so bad. So there are times when COVID hit and you know, from earning like, say for example, $4,000 a day, you earn 120, and you go, yay, we made 200 today because yesterday was 120. You know, so I think research is talking to people. Information is being open to asking questions. I love asking questions. And so what if I sound stupid? And so what if I sound like I don't know anything? I go, what? So what does SOP mean? You know, and being okay with that, to seem like you don't know everything. I think that's when you learn the most.
Thank you. And then from that, we are going to Green's question. What was one of your lowest points while managing Vika?
Oh, it was just that, right? I have low points. I think I'm kind of immune to low points because there's always something, you know. But I think it's that story I told you. There's two low points. One is when, you know, people leave you, and like, you know, when you put in so much love or like attention to your staff, and they turn around and do mean things or do bad things to you. That is when it hurts most, because my people are the biggest part of why I do business. And that hurts a lot. I think those are my low points, when I either react poorly or when your staff turn around and you invest so much in them in terms of time and emotions, and they turn around and you know, bite you in the ass. I think another low point was also when I started the third outlet, and it didn't do well, and I lost money from it, and then we had to start all over again with our savings. It took up all our savings, and then seeing so little in the bank account, that is, you know, the insecurity of that, and but that was a great lesson for my ego as well, that, you know, whatever you have now can be taken away from you in a day, and understanding that, and then that taught me to be grateful for what I had at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess the next question will also then be very related. Sanya would like to know if you have any advice. Okay, do you have any hacks or tips in operations management to young entrepreneurs, and how would you promote being an entrepreneur to other people?
I think some people are meant to be their own bosses and some are not. So understanding what you want for yourself, that's important first. I'm the kind of person who can't follow instructions, or you know, or I don't do well with being told what to do. So that's why I feel like it's important for me to be my own boss. But to a young entrepreneur, it's being okay with sometimes not knowing. I think that's important, and also hanging in there. I find that and being able to do the hard part. It's hard, you know, when you first open. I work years with like no off days, and like people calling me in the morning going, oh, I'm sick, and then I have to go in even though I haven't slept at all. I had my son in 2011, so when he was 2 years old, actually when he was 2 weeks old, one of my chefs quit, and you know, I had to. I mean, I'm lucky to have a supportive husband who then followed me with the baby, with my baby. And I had to, like, you know, say, okay, you know, there's the breast milk, you know, don't forget to feed him. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me, right? So understanding that things will go wrong, understanding that it's hard. I think that's an important lesson to go in with, because everyone thinks that owning your own business is all that. Because now they see me at where I am 13 years later, and I can do whatever I want. I mean, I'm going on holiday tomorrow. I'm going to Fiji, you know, so I can do whatever I want, but it wasn't always like that, you know? So understanding that it's going to be hard and you got to hang in there. And that's, I feel, the most important tip to understand that it's not easy. A hack, important. Well, then the other bit is also asking questions. And there's no right question, just ask questions. Oh, so how you do this? Hey, uncle, how you fix the aircon, uncle? Because it's buzzing again. So I think being inquisitive and wanting to know how things are done, or like asking people random questions, I think that's the most important tip. Yeah. How would I promote? I wouldn't promote it. It's hard shit. How would you promote being an entrepreneur to other people? Oh, sorry, what does that mean?
Would you encourage people to become an entrepreneur? And if you would, what would you say to them?
Sure. I mean, if that's what you want to do, and try. I feel like if you have the capacity to try, why not? And for me, my how I am with my life is, oh, okay, then I try. Why not try? And if it doesn't work for you, then try something else. So always, again, being open with that, and and sometimes you don't need a big grand idea to start something. Sometimes your ideas come to you as you go. So don't be afraid. Sometimes I think when I'm blessed to have ADHD, because sometimes I don't think through things very well. and that's okay too. Like when I wing it and it comes from my heart, I realize I do best like that. And I don't need to plan so much before starting something, because sometimes when you plan so much, you're held back with fear, because you go like, oh my God, yeah, actually I need this. But when you kind of wing it and you go with it, sometimes it doesn't hold you back.
Okay. So talking about winging it, Cashville is asking, did you have a backup plan if Fika did not work out?
Yes, I did. I mean, my backup plan was so I did a course in interior design, because my husband is good with architectural drawings. I said, together, I think let's consult for people. We'll do like the interior design bit, and then we will design their menu, and then we'll help them with getting, now it's called Singapore Food Association, but before it was NEA. We'll help them get all the certifications in order. We know what to do. We'll help them hire people. So that was my backup plan, still in line with F&B, but more into setting up businesses for people, because that's my favorite part. Like setting it up is fun, following through with it, not so fun. The operations bit. So that was my backup plan. Yeah.
Okay. Sanya is curious about your inspiration. So who were your inspirations, if you had any, other than your family?
Other than my family. I love Maya Angelou. I love people who are kind. Those people are my inspiration. Business inspirations, I would say Arianna Huffington. I love real people. I love people who are driven by knowledge and driven by their people. I love it when people are not driven by money. At the end of the day, honestly, guys, I think we're in a society where consumerism and money is so important. Singapore is like that. And I can tell you that from before I started my business, and I had like probably $50 in my account because I travel when I get my salary, to now, when I have a lot of, I have achieved what I have, my happiness level is not any different. And money doesn't bring happiness. So find happiness in the love in what you do, and the love in helping other people. So in terms of inspiration, I always find that people like Oprah and like Maya Angelou, being the rainbow in someone else's cloud. I know it sounds a bit like, whatever task, but these are the things that keep me going. Kindness in people, finding love in being able to spread that to my staff, and asking them when I come in, how are you? Instead of saying, why are sales so low yesterday? Like really, really connecting with people. That's my favorite part, and that inspires me. I think the people around me inspire me into being a better person. Wow, that sounded kind of corny, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. It's true. I'm sure a lot of
Kind
us
of feeling
will relate.
in the morning. Yeah, and athletes inspire me very much because I always feel like being disciplined is important. So athletes and their consistency and perseverance and grit really inspires me, and I think that's very relevant to business as well.
I think we have a bit more time. Okay, this is a question from me. If you were to do things differently, if you had a chance to change anything, either in your life or business, anything, is there anything that you would change?
That's the thing, right? I'm scared to change anything. If I go back in time and if I change one thing, would I then not have the other things that I have now? I think I would have just be kinder to myself. I'm really hard on myself because I always want, I'm very impatient and I want the best immediately. So I wouldn't change anything, but I would change my perception of things, I think, because you can't, I think situations always you have to realize you don't have a control of, but your perception you have a control of. And that can really change your whole experience with things. You know, if you go into it thinking, oh, okay, I take it as a learning process. Or you go in thinking, oh man, I truly failed in this. Wow, I suck. That's like two different perceptions. So I think what I would change is my perception of things and be kinder to myself. But I wouldn't change the process because every little thing, sounding corny again, is a reason for what's to come. And sometimes when it's hard, you know, you don't have the realization of, you know, if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have opened this. And if I didn't learn this, then I wouldn't have learned that. So acceptance is important. I feel accepting things and even the hard stuff and realization of, I can't control everything. Even though I want to have control of everything, because I need to be first all the time.
Okay, thanks. That's very insightful and also very candid. We have one more. Okay, we have one more question. We have time for one more question. How can we start working towards entrepreneurship now as students?
I think it's finding your passion and also finding perhaps what are the gaps in the industries, you know, because that's where whenever I start something new, it's always, what hasn't anybody else done, you know? So halal Swedish food is the first in the world, you know. There aren't many Swedish places in Singapore too. So, nobody's done it. Okay, that's a great idea. You know, let's do that, because if there's no competition, why not? You know. And then Konditori Bakery, it was done 6 years ago. There was no halal artisanal bakeries around. We were the first. So I feel like being unique, finding things that are unique, being creative, and like doing, I think like there's no way to go about it other than being unique and truly finding the love in it. Sometimes I didn't know what I love in bakeries, but I love breads. I love, you know, I love eating. That's important. So then when I found that, then I could you know, understand what was good quality and not good quality. So if you're saying what can you do now to be ready for it, I guess reading up on business and like finding out, you know, I still don't know. It's okay not to know everything. You can hire people to do stuff that you don't want to do or like you don't know. So I hire my accountant and I hire a HR person, and then I can focus on the things that I love to do. But then, yeah, just that. One is, what are you most passionate about? What would you wake up in the morning to do, even though, you know, you're really, really tired? You know, that's one. And then the second one is finding the gap I mean, be creative. Like, oh, then my third one was the first one in Singapore to have the Hong Kong waffles, the bubble waffles with ice cream in it. Everyone else was doing, and like you can walk around with it. So I say already, right? I need to be first in, in everything. Why not be unique? Why not do, if you're unique, then everyone has to come to you. So that's a brilliant way of doing it. So be unique and don't follow the crowd. I feel that has always been my motto with things. I always needed to be different, and I kind of pride myself for that. Like, I don't need to follow everyone because I'm pretty cool myself, I think being confident with that as well is important, although I'm not confident with it all the time, and that's okay as well. You don't need to know everything all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Did I answer the question also?
Yes, I think you answered the question and more.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think with that, we have come to the end of this session. So I think we would just really want to thank you for your really, really rich sharing, and sometimes very personal as well. So I'm sure we have all learned a lot from what you have shared with us, also very inspired as well.
Thank you for your questions. Always when I get questions, I have to reflect, and reflection is so important, and I'm grateful for you guys, and thank you for asking me questions.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, students, I have just sent a link into the chat group, and I'm going to be sharing with you a QR code right now. Okay, so please scan the QR code or click on the link to complete a feedback form. Okay, and that will also be to check your attendance. Yeah. So you may leave the chat after you're done. The next session starts at 9:30. So please log on to the next Zoom session by 9:20. You need to log on with your student icon to do that, as well as to access the feedback form. Yes? Okay. So thank you so much again, Ms. Stephanie, for joining us this morning.
Thank you
for your time.
I really enjoyed it.
Yes.
8 in the morning, I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad it was not as painful.
Thank you,
at 8 a.m.
Thank you, guys. Truly appreciate all of you.
Thank you so much.
Wait, so I can go now?
and it's going to die, right? So once product market fit is reached, and then it's time for the company to scale, right? To start acquiring more customers either in adjacent markets or in overseas geographies. So there are some VCs that focus really on in the earlier stage of formation of a startup. So those are like your what we call pre-seed or seed stage investors, or your individual angel investors. And VCs there typically are looking for, I would say, groundbreaking ideas. And they're also looking to back founders, with that entrepreneurial track record, who have proven themselves at being able to start companies. On the other end of the spectrum, when we look at VCs who are looking to fund companies that are looking to scale, right, because they've really obtained product market fit, then the consideration there is really different. They're not really looking so much so at the idea, because the idea may have been in the market for several years already, and maybe it's not completely new. And what they're really looking for is, say, the operational and financial metrics of the company, whether they have a clear competitive advantage vis-a-vis their competitors in the market at that point in time. So again, depending on which stage you're looking to invest in, the considerations for a VC may be very different. I'll also add a little nuance to that, there are some VCs that are going even earlier in the funnel today. So instead of just looking at pre-seed or seed stage companies to fund, they are actually in the process of creating the company together with the entrepreneurs. So that particular process is called venture building. So what the VC is essentially doing is to move up earlier in the funnel to create companies, so that they don't really have to compete with other seed stage VCs for investment opportunities. Yeah, so that's just a little nuance there. Yeah.
Thank you, Luke and Glenn, for providing a very comprehensive overview of the industry, and perhaps clarifying a little bit for everyone here that VC and startup are actually two very different things, even if some people tend to speak of them together. So Glenn, perhaps I'd just like to pick up on something you mentioned earlier about pre-seed, seed stage, and maybe Series A, Series B. Perhaps you'd like to clarify for everyone here what all these terms mean in the context of VC.
Yeah, so the easiest way to think about it is as the stages are basically your angel, your seed stage, and your Series A, B, C, and thereafter. So the angel investment is basically when, say I have a business plan, I have an idea, and I can't raise any money from institutional investors yet, because maybe my idea is just too risky, so no one's going to fund me. So therefore, I approach friends and families, or I approach high net worth individuals, and I ask them for some money. So those are angel investors, right? When it's really early on, and then maybe once my business plan is starting to get more traction, or my product is closer to being more fully developed, then that's when I have results to show, and therefore I can go to institutional investors. And so then therefore I can start raising a seed round, from VCs who focus on that stage. And then once I have what I was saying just now about product market fit, and I'm really looking to scale, and then that's when I'll be starting to raise a Series A. So any alphabet that follows thereafter from that is basically just it just basically keeps continuing. Yeah, you get companies that raise until Series I, J, I don't know, yeah, like Grab, but some companies raise until maybe an E or D round, and then that's enough. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Glenn, for the clarification. So I hope everyone understands a little bit more about VC and startup. And if any further questions, do put in your question into the chat box starting from now. So perhaps next question I'd like to pose to the both of you is, how has COVID disrupted the VC industry or the startup industry, or is there any major trends that has been happening, and how do you foresee it changing in the future? So either Luke or Glenn, please feel free to jump in.
I think so. I mean, I guess on the VC side, the one thing that has changed is previously, before making investments, VCs would definitely want to meet the founder and entrepreneur face to face. But in the past 2 years, especially during a circuit breaker, that wasn't possible at all. But business had to continue, right? So I guess we learned to do deals over Zoom. We learned to get comfort with the person that we are backing, without being able to meet them in person. It's probably not the most optimal because I think there are certain elements of the in-person interaction which a Zoom cannot fully replicate. So it's not optimal, but I mean we just had to adapt, right? Yeah, I would say that's the biggest change because when VCs fund startups, it's really about getting into a business partnership, and so being able to get the comfort with the other party that you're dealing with is very important. Yeah. Moving forward, I don't think this will be a big issue because I mean we are opening up. So yeah, I don't foresee it being a big issue moving forward.
I think hopping off Glenn's point, we are all here on Zoom, so having to deal with that, not being able to shake the other person's hand in terms of startups also. So that's why. But I think as an industry, it's very industry specific. In startups, there are so many industries, right? I think it's very industry specific, and it's very similar, not just in startups, in any big organizations, in various industries they get hit. So for example, if I'm a startup in the travel industry, definitely I get hit. Maybe I'm in hospitality, I am a budget hotel, then those things definitely all get hit. Then what do you do there, right? Do they have to figure out how to pivot, how to change their business plans? And you see that not just in the startup space, you see that even in your large organization. So you see SIA, they're dead, right? As in not dead, but they are, sorry, wow, this is not recorded, is it? They're not dead, as in they were suffering. But you see, new things are glamping in SQ, Go Jewel, do some camping just to get some.
Recording in progress.
Oh, thanks, Ray. So I think you see that in the startup industry, but I think naturally many startups are online. They conduct their business, their software, e-commerce. So I think those companies got a boost, right? So really dependent on the industry. So I guess that's the biggest change. And I think going on Glenn's point, being very comfortable with offline. So let's say in Oona, we are now in 8 markets. When I started, we only started with Singapore. There was a team in Australia and there was a team in India, right? Then I was asked to expand into all these. How do you hire somebody? Do I hire somebody based in Singapore, train them up and send them there, Singaporean or not Singaporean, right? Or do I find somebody in that country that I have to hire, but I can't shake their hand? How do I know that this guy or girl will be able to do the job well? So you just really had to grapple with that. So for example, Malaysia, we were quite lucky. It was via referrals, right? So usually you refer, okay, this person is good. They have worked together before, let's say McKinsey. But China was so hard to find. How do you find somebody based in China there's so many people, but you'd be surprised at how difficult it is to find the right person. So we were very lucky. There's a lot of Chinese students who study in Singapore. We found two MBA students, post-MBA students. So we hired them, we trained them here, and we flew them down to China, right? But even then, you need a head. We needed a country manager. And we were trying to use LinkedIn, so on and so forth. It was so tough. And finally, we decided, okay, let's just pay for a headhunter. And the headhunter referred people. So number one, there's that credibility from the headhunter. But I never met my country manager. I've not met my country manager, even though we hired him in probably August last year. And just being comfortable with that, like what Glenn said, being able to put money into somebody, right, that you've never met in person is a stretch, but something that you just have to get comfortable with.
Yeah, thanks to Glenn for sharing more about how we've all learned to do things over Zoom, and you're comfortable doing a lot more things over Zoom now. So perhaps I'll just move on into asking the both of you, what are some skills or qualities you think are useful or needed, and how would someone sort of look to develop themselves to gain those skills or qualities?
This one I can start. I think that's the $1 million question, right? The 4 of us were discussing before the panelists come in. Oh, what's the skill I need? What class do I need to take? Tell me exactly which one. I will do it, and then I'll get there. I think I was in that shoes also. I try to game you try to optimize it as much as you can, right? And the fact that all of you are here, you're here to find out the secret sauce. this is also a very difficult question, but I think being and I hate to want to sound too cliche. I think just being very adaptable, right? So your career is not a linear path, right? You see Glenn's career, you see my career. It's like, it's not finite. We started here, I want to be a fighter pilot. So I think just be, and then that didn't work out. Then I decided, okay, fine, I'll just go and try to make some money. But in terms of skills, how do I put it? I think just be open to experiences, right? In school, there is no one track class that will get you to that, right? You could be doing history, you could be doing business, right? You could be doing philosophy, you could be doing liberal arts, and as long as you're, whatever you learn in school, typically you won't use in your career. Let's just put it that way. But what it gives you is the ability to think critically, the ability to learn new things fast, and I think that's important. It's a very difficult question to answer. Maybe Glenn, you can hop in while I think some more.
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best. I would say, okay, so I'm going to give two answers. The first answer is what I think is the standard textbook answer, which is what I, as a JC student, would expect, because that's what we are taught in Singapore's. Oh, okay, sorry, this being recorded, so I can't talk about the education system. But yeah, so I mean, textbook answer skills you will need. I would say analytical skills, being able to analyze companies and being able to understand or have a belief about why you think a company will be superior to other companies. Being able to understand the industry dynamics, whether there are tailwinds or whether there are headwinds for the industry. So analytical skills. I would say something that's also important is humility in the VC industry, because as VCs, we get things wrong a lot of times. Majority of investments that VCs make fail spectacularly. It's just that few investments which make so much money that they help the VC's overall portfolio make a profit. If the VC even makes a profit, right? So many times the VC is in the business of essentially forecasting the future when it's so uncertain, and they're taking an incredible amount of risk, a huge gamble on early stage companies which are very unproven. So being able to accept that you'll be wrong, and not being too overconfident in your hypothesis, I think that's quite important. And I'll say lastly, maybe being able to empathize with founders. I think increasingly at the end of the day, if you look at the capital markets today, there's a lot of money that's going around, in part because interest rates are so low. What that basically means is that there's a lot of money that's chasing after good companies or good entrepreneurs to fund. And sometimes what differentiates a VC at the end of the day is not just the money, right? It's the business partner that the entrepreneur is bringing onto the table and helping them to grow the businesses together. So yeah, so I'll say empathy. So probably these three. For the non-textbook answer, I would say it doesn't really matter, because you can get into VC in many different ways. Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of profiles, right? You can get into VC by starting off in management consulting, and then you have your own skill set there, which you would get in management consulting. Or you can go to investment banking, and then you can go into VC. Or you can do as I did, which is to have a very convoluted path, and you go into VC. Or you can have those which start off as operators, and then they go into VC. So it's all very different paths that people can take. And the reason why I say that VC can require such diverse skill sets is because, as I mentioned earlier, depending on which stage of the company you're looking to fund, whether it's a really early stage company or whether it's a company that's more mature, has achieved product market fit, has operational and financial metrics that are there for you to analyze, the skill set there that you're looking at is very different. If you're looking at a company that's very mature, then you need to be more numbers driven. You need to be able to really crunch numbers and analyze the different operating and financial metrics of a company to understand whether the company is a good investment. But if you're looking at a really, really early stage company, there's no data available at all. So then the skill set that will be probably be needed there is, something that's, like an ability to imagine the future, to imagine the upside that could materialize if this company actually really takes off and becomes the next unicorn. So I'll say the skill sets are really, really different. And that's why there's no really single one path into VC, because it's so diverse. Like you have really, really different skill sets. And then also it depends on the kind of industry that the VC is looking to fund. If you're looking at an industry that is really, really deep tech in nature, like biotech, it doesn't really matter in biotech if you can analyze the numbers or not, because there are no numbers for you to analyze. So what's most important in biotech is you understand the drug, you understand the development profile, you understand how the drug will perform as it goes through animal testing, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials, and finally whether it can get adopted by the FDA. It doesn't matter whether you can crunch numbers like an investment banker or not. Doesn't really matter whether you have great equity skills. I mean, it's good, but that's probably not the most important thing. The most important thing is whether you can understand the technological profile and whether you have the technical understanding to understand whether that drug will be a blockbuster success. Right. So it's really, really different depending on which stage of company you're looking at, which stage and which vertical you're looking to fund. And as Luke said, whatever you learn in school is important, but not the most important.
Yeah. I want to hop on to add on, right? So maybe I can talk a bit about startups, since Glenn mentioned a bit about VC. I think try not to go into university saying that, I mean, you have an idea. I went in, I was like, okay, I want to do banking. So I think it's very hard to say, okay, I want to do startups. I think just be open. When you go in, do a subject or a degree or major that you think you will enjoy. So really go and understand. Don't listen to your parents. I tell you what your parents say, right? Don't go and listen to them. They ask you to do law, go and ask all your law. Go and find some law senior. All my law friends hate it. So anyway, go and figure out. Don't listen to your parents, number one. And I think hopefully let's not show any of your parents this recording. But really go and think about what is good, which is what you guys are doing, finding out. That's one. When you go to university, go attend all the career fairs that you can and just go and talk to all the people that are there, right? They are in the industry, and they'll tell you about what is it that they do day to day. But of course, again, that being said, take it with a pinch of salt because they're there to sell you the industry, right? Then the next thing you should do, which is what Ray here is doing very well, is go and do all these internships, right? Go and find internships, beg borrows to you. Okay, don't steal. Go and beg and find an internship to do, because you will never know what you want to do until maybe later on. Some of you will have a very clear idea. Okay, I know this is my life dream to be a banker, but there are others who will need some time. So I never knew what I really want. I knew I want to do finance, but finance is so broad. What is it in finance? So let's say for you, if you're interested in startup, which part of a startup, what industry? Do I want to go business? Do I want to go technical? So I think doing even from year one, right? Summer, winter. I've seen those summer, winter. Okay, those are a bit crazy, but I think every summer try to do an internship that will be very helpful for you to know what you want. My year 1, year 2, year 3 internships are all very different. They're all finance, but different aspects of it, right? I started off with wealth management, then I did some KYC, due diligence work, and realized that was so boring. Then I did wealth management again. I was like, okay, maybe not ready for me. And then I did investments, right? In stocks basically. And then after that, Shopee. So I think that will allow you to know what you want. And I've heard many stories. Some people say, oh, I really want to do accountancy, right? Because all your parents tell you to do accountancy, because back then accountancy is very safe. So I remember I had a mentee say, oh, I really want to do audit. I was like, really? I've never heard anybody say it before. I said, don't do audit. But she died, I want to do audit. So she went and do her year 1 internship audit. After that, she told me, I'll never want to do audit ever again. Because it's not the most fun thing to do. So I think the internships really show you that, right? That's one. And then beyond that, let's say you do an internship, like, okay, I really want to do startups and I really want to become a software engineer. But you're like, shit, I'm a business major. I think there are many courses out there that you can take on the side that will give you those skills, right? So it's very hard to tell you, okay, I'll go and do these 10 things now. I think what I'm trying to show you is that there are things you can do along the way to help you formulate, okay, what are skills I need? If I don't have it, if my course can't give me that, if my major can't give me that, how do I how do I supplement it? Do I go to Coursera, Udemy, right? There are so many free courses out there, right? General Assembly is another one where you can do all these tech related workshops, right? They don't cost too much as well. And yeah, hope that helps. And feel free to send more questions. I think we can dive deeper into this what skills I need question.
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I just chime in onto what Luke said, right? So I don't want to really repeat the cliche, but yeah, be adaptable. Never stop learning, because what you learn today may not be relevant tomorrow if the world is changing so quickly, right?
Yeah.
The last thing I would share is that I think it's important to find your superpower. And what I mean by that is to find an area that uniquely suits what you like, what you're good at, and what can allow you to make a living. And I think that's important because, for example, Luke raised the example of audit, right? Yeah, oh my God, it's horribly boring, but some people just love it, right? So for some people, they just love looking at numbers all day long, and they love, finding discrepancies in the financial statements. I mean, to each his own, and we need people like that, right? If not, the world would be in an entire mess. But it's just that, one man's medicine is another man's poison. So you just need to find something that really, really, really suits you, something that you're really, really good at, something that really allows you to excel and that you can develop a career in.
Thanks to Glenn for sharing more advice to the students and telling us some stuff that maybe we haven't really heard before, and helping us learn that you just need to try different things and just to keep learning. And that's something that we should really bear in mind. So students, now we'll be moving into the live Q&A section. So continue to put your questions to the chat, and if you would like to, you can also raise your hand and we can call on you and unmute you, and you can speak to the speakers yourself. So perhaps the first question we'll ask the two speakers is, what are the hardships that you face in your job?
Wow.
This won't be shared with my employer, right? No, that's joking. I mean, I think it's really, really diverse, depending on what kind of role that we're doing. But I would say, probably one of the biggest difficulties that I face as a VC is really just finding good companies to really invest in. And I say that because there's a lot of money in the market today. So competition to deploy money into good startups is very, very stiff. And so sometimes as a VC, before we know it, that promising company has already been invested in by someone else. And maybe there's just no more room for us to invest. And sometimes in the VC industry also, there are certain, I would say, there's certain rivalry. So sometimes, if a rival VC gets onto, or if they manage to invest into the company, that may preclude you from investing in future rounds. So I would say, especially today, competition to invest in good companies is very, very stiff. Yeah.
I'm noticing that time is a bit short for us. So I'll talk a bit more about startups then, right, in the various stages. So when I joined Shopee was a bit later stage, Ninja a bit earlier, and then now really from the ground up. I think the hardship, I wouldn't call it a hardship, I'll call it maybe challenge that I face is, so in school, I give you a problem sum, there is a fixed set of steps that you take to arrive at the answer. I think where I am right now in the company where we are is you have to figure out what the problem is, right? And you have a lot of competition to deal with. So how do you how do you be creative about it and figure out, number one, what's the problem statement, and then what are the steps I need to take to solve it, right? So there are many. So I give you an example. Una Brands, there's a lot of competitors. They're all in China, they're all in Australia, so everywhere. How do I be number one, right? I need to be there first. So that's one answer, right? So we need to launch very quickly. Boom, 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 new markets. That's the other one. Number two, how do I become number one in each of these markets? Then you have to figure out, okay, maybe I need to treat the sellers with respect. right? I need to build my reputation up. I need to do PR. So these are things I think that's the biggest challenge or hardship of the job. I wouldn't say things like, oh, you wake up early, sleep late type of thing. I think those you do that in JC anyway. If anything, I think working is more fun than schooling. Schooling because it's an arms race, right? Everybody study harder than you. You just have to study harder than the next person. But I think working is a bit better. So that's the hardship. I think the other thing is being able to deal with uncertainty, especially if you're a very early stage startup. Some of you may join at different stages. The earlier stages, you have a bit more uncertainty, right? Even the bosses don't really know what's the correct answer. And you having to, again, going back and be adaptable or be able to roll with the punches, right? Of that company. And then what if the company fails? So I think you have to take, it's a risk that you take when you join a startup. It could have failed, Una Brands could have failed, we may have not gotten to 100 people, and it could still fail in 1 or 2 years' time. So I think being able to deal with that. But that being said, before I scare everybody off startups, I think nowadays people are more acceptable of failure, right? Very much like US in Silicon Valley, right? It is more of a badge of honor, right? Because if, let's say, you join a startup, 1-2 years, you've done this. If it fails, did it mean you didn't learn anything? Not really, right? In 2 years, you've learned so much more, than you were 2 years ago. So I think, that's to answer the question. Hope that answers the question. Hey Ray, there are 2 questions that we answered. That apparently he jumped to answer.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
I feel quite bad about it
maybe,
because it was a bit of a silly answer. But
no, you can ask it now. Ask it live. Yeah. So maybe I'll ask the question that Kriti asked first that Glenville actually answered. So, what exactly can be considered a groundbreaking idea? So perhaps for startups to continue to pursue that idea instead of giving it up, or for VCs to consider.
Should I elaborate or Luke?
Yeah. Just further elaborate on your answer.
I
for
just have a
everyone to hear.
one-liner. Then before Glenn can answer, I think for startups, it's just, are you actually solving a problem? Is it a need to have versus a good to have? I mean, this one you can talk the whole day about this, but if I were to sum it up, that's how I'll sum it up.
Yeah. So it's as Luke mentioned, really about the idea about whether you're solving a key problem, right? The one analogy that we use in the industry is the solution, or rather, it's a product. Is it a vitamin or is it a painkiller? If it's a vitamin, it's not worth funding because many people don't take vitamins, right? It's a good to have, right? But if it's a painkiller, then people are really going to pay through their nose for it, which means there's really going to be a strong demand for it. And if you build it, people will probably come buy it. So if you have the dog food, the dogs will probably come to eat the dog food, right? So yeah, so whether you can deliver like that 10 times better experience than the existing alternative in the market today, yeah, then I think there'll be a good idea to have.
Yeah, thanks Luke and Glenn for sharing. I guess we'll just move on to the okay, first we'll answer the question that was asked in the open chat right now, which is how do you deal with difficult people?
Sorry, there was a question earlier that I answered. What's the first thing you do when you wake up? I didn't know it pops to answer, but I guess this is a quick, easy one that we can answer. I hate to say it, and this is, please don't practice it. I check my emails, which if you read many productivity stuff, they say don't do that, meditate and all that. But yeah, I check my emails. That's what I do.
Glenn, what about you? Is there anything special you do when you wake up in the morning?
I don't want to be prescriptive. I think everyone needs to find their own routine, their own cadence that works for them. For some people, checking emails in the morning works. For some people, they meditate. Some they go for a run. Some they play with their dog. Some they talk to their family. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I think what's important is what you do in the morning reflects what you prioritize in your life. Because when you wake up in the morning, that's typically, right, a span of time that you have that can be undisturbed. Yeah, so prioritize according to what you want to prioritize in your life.
So for students right now, maybe that might be going over your notes for the exam later that day. But so I guess we'll move on to the question that was asked in the open chat as well, which is how do you deal with difficult people?
This question again can be answered in various ways. Right? One, difficult people, if it's difficult boss or difficult peers or difficult employees, you treat them differently. I think maybe dealing with difficult subordinates not at your level yet. So maybe we can talk about that another time when you get a bit more senior in a role. I suppose you care about dealing with difficult bosses and difficult peers. Difficult peers, maybe you guys have a sense of it because when you do project work, you have problematic peers also. So that one we can talk about later. But maybe I will start off by answering how do you deal with difficult bosses. It kind of sucks. I had difficult bosses in my first few roles, and I think you just have to grit your teeth and deliver, right? At the end of the day, your performance evaluation at the end of the year is based on some KPIs that were set up for you early on, right? And I think, and usually these are quite quantifiable. So you try to do your best to deliver those, right? At the end of the day, it's fact-based, right? So you can't really how to say get around it, right? But other than that, so okay, maybe going back, right? If I just want to focus on it. If during your interviews, right, and I think you'll face this in university when you're interviewing for internships or full-time jobs, you will tend to feel as a junior that they will interview me, right? I want the job, I'm desperate for a job. But I think treat the interviews as a two-way thing. Is you should be also interviewing them, and there are certain questions. I think go and Google what you can ask, right? What's your management style like? How do you deal with how do you give feedback? Right, so there's all these questions on Google. You can search how to ask how to interview, what are some good questions to ask, and use it as an opportunity, right, to find out more about the person that you'll be working for. That's one way. The other way is just be proactive. Go to LinkedIn, find their colleagues, and find their colleagues or peers, or maybe references. Right, you will have friends from NUS, SMU, wherever universities you go to or whatever schools you go to that may have worked there, and just ask around, right? Do your due diligence to avoid being there. But yeah, I think if dealing with difficult bosses is tough, but put a smile on your face, suck it up, and that's the non-PC answer. Yeah, and hopefully you find a better job next time with a better boss. They always say people leave bosses, they don't leave companies. So I think that's tough, but yeah. I'm not sure how much time we have, so I don't want to answer about the deal with peers and deal with subordinates, but maybe Glenn can chime in on.
Yeah, I just want to chime in on that point by just saying two things. One is you can't please everyone in life. So we're not born on this earth to please everyone. So if we can't please our boss, sometimes it's just good to consider whether there's an environment you want to be working in. Having said that, I also agree with Luke that knowing what your boss wants is key to developing further in that company. So then I think a good thing to also consider is which battles do you want to fight? Is it really important to argue with your boss if your boss wants the PowerPoint slide to be done in a certain format? I mean, sometimes maybe you just do it, right? And as Luke said, you just suck it out. So I think, it's good to find that balance for yourself. I don't think it's something that people before you can prescribe, because it's really down to each individual's personal tolerance and belief. But yeah, and I think, and one last thing is, I think it also helps if you try and understand where the other person whom you perceive as being difficult, as where they are coming from, right? Like, why do they believe the way that they do? What are they trying to achieve? Is there something that they have encountered before that makes them believe the way that they do? And if you had been in the situation before, would you believe the same way? And would you take that same perspective and the outlook? Not possible for every single person that you do it, because some people are just really, really difficult. But yeah, I think that would be useful.
Oh, yeah, Miss Tan, yes. Sorry, I didn't know it was only sent to host. I sent something in the chat. You know what? Let me just send it to everyone. That is very relevant to this question. How do I send it to everybody?
So
Everyone.
yeah, so while Luke is sending stuff to everyone, maybe we'll just cover one last question. So one last question before we have to end. So I think Samantha asked, what's the most exciting moment in your job?
Current job, right? I've had a few jobs.
Guess can be any job.
Then you
Up
got
to
anything,
you.
or shall I go first?
You can go first, man.
Sure. So the most exciting one, there's been many exciting things at Una Brands. So because it's just been such a crazy journey. I think I knew about the business I did, and then we joined. I think the first most exciting milestone was when I saw the PR launch. So it was last May, and we were like, okay, Una Brands raises 40 million in seed funding. Of course, and that was we were just doing all this in stealth, in secret, and then finally, boom, one big message came out. Everybody's like, wow, you guys raised so much money. So I think that was one of the most exciting moments. The other one was doing my first deal, right? So we had to, the model started in US, Europe, where you had to buy Amazon brands. So you need to prove the product market fit, as Glenn mentioned earlier, in this part of the world. We need to prove a few things. Number one, that we can buy Amazon brands. Number two, that we can buy non-Amazon brands, so your Shopee, Lazada brands. And number three, that we can buy Shopify, so your brand.com, right, your ergotune.com type of things. So each of these, I was on all these deals, right? So when we sign, you shake their hands, and you look at these entrepreneurs, they are like you and I, and they're all these young kids, 30s, get older than you guys, like that, in their 30s, who sold their business, and they're millionaires now, right? They went to poly, they went to JC, they start their business. This is unbelievable. And I look at myself, I'm like, what am I doing in my life? You know, not selling my businesses for millions of dollars. So those are exciting. I think the other exciting one more recently, I mean, there's been many milestones, but the most exciting one recently was launching the Korea. So if you guys search, we launched in the Korea. We partnered with another company called Click Brands. But essentially, it's a very close partnership. We are one and the same. And we committed $100 million into the market. So I had to fly down to Korea a month ago. I got COVID there. So flew down to Korea, launched the market. We hired 2 people. We trained them up, right? And then now we're back. We had to set up everything, right? Transfer their domain. So all of that culminated in this one big PR piece. And I think that was extremely exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I guess it would be attending the YIGC Career Symposium. No, just joking. No, I mean, so seriously speaking, I think what's probably most exciting as a VC is 2 things. One is closing a significant investment from an investor that believes in your fund strategy, that believes in the fund, or rather the VC's ability to find great companies to invest in. And another thing is when the company that we actually invest in, becomes really, really successful. Whether they go to an IPO or whether they get acquired by another larger company for a significant amount that gives you a great return on your investment. And if that validates your belief in the team and your belief in your investment thesis, especially if it wasn't something that was easily agreed with at the start, or to put it another way, if it was something that was contrarian at the start, then I think that's something that's even more fulfilling and exciting. Yeah.
Thanks, Luke and Glenn, for sharing perhaps some of the highlights of their career so far. So for the students here, I'm afraid this is all the time we have for questions today. And we really hope that you have found this session and fulfilling and insightful. And we apologize that we can't really cover all the questions that were asked. So do take these last few minutes to complete a feedback form that I'll now be sharing. And this also doubles up as an attendance taking form. So we will be sharing the information that we get from the form to the teachers at your school. So on behalf of the students and the advisory, thank you, Luke and Glenn, for taking the time to share with us. your
Yeah, if
experiences
this,
this morning.
was really, really fun. I think it would have gone a bit more. I'm sure there are many, many good questions. So you all can ask Miss Tan next time to organize the second one, or ask us to come back again. I think more than happy to share. There's so much, there's so many things. I mean, if I were your age and I had this, I had a ton of questions as well. But thank you all for taking the time. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Miss Tan, for setting this all up, and really nice to have Glenn to participate in this panel with Glenn.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke, for your kind words. Yeah, nice to participate with you as well. And thanks, Ray, and Miss Tan for organizing this. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining us on a Saturday morning. I think it's really great that you guys are showing interest in your careers at 18 years old. At your age, I was not thinking about this at all. Yeah, I was just playing bridge. Yeah, probably not the best thing to be doing. But yeah, if so, I mean, yeah, so sorry that we can't really cover more than this, but if I could just chime in on one last point that Samantha mentioned. She was asking what are the most exciting moments in your career. I would say when choosing a career, it's not just important to be, looking at what the exciting moments the career can deliver, but what are the, shitty moments of the job can you tolerate? To put it another way is, what is the bitterness you're willing to tolerate so that you can taste the sweetness that follows?
That's a very good one.
Yeah, food for thought. Yeah.
So the hardship question was also very good, I thought. That's a good one.
Sorry, which hardship question?
This one when the person asked, what hardships do you face in your job? I think that was
yeah.
Thanks so much, Luke and Glenn. You may take your leave now. Thank you so much once
Thanks,
again
guys.
for joining us.
Have a good
Thanks,
weekend.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, so for all the students here, I'll now be sharing a QR code with all of you. So please scan it, and I'll also be putting the link in the chat as well. Yeah, just give me a few moments on that, and you can click the link if that would be more convenient for you. So I do actually have to get going for the next session soon. So please try your best to quickly scan the QR code and click on the link. And maybe I'll end it in about a minute. And if anyone needs a little bit more time, just put a note in the chat. So once again, I'd like to emphasize that this is also an attendance taking form. So this replaces the form that you might have filled in from the teachers at YIJC for earlier sessions. Yeah, so we will be sharing information with your teachers to take your attendance. Yep, so if everyone has scanned it or clicked on the link, I'll be ending now. Thank you so much once again for joining us. And if you'd like to stay connected with Advisory, there are a couple of links on the screen right now that you can use. Thank you. Bye. Hope to see you again. Thank you, Kain. Thank you. Bye.
Record.
analytics.
Recording
Am
in
I correct?
progress.
For post site.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Just at that point as well,
Mm.
you don't really need like quantitative skills again, just to be in data science. There are lawyers who are data lawyers, data privacy lawyers, data governance lawyers, AI governance lawyers. So those lawyers are just like, they're talking about things like in Singapore would be the, I can't remember the name of the act in Singapore, but in Europe it would be GDPR as well.
Right,
So
right,
again,
right.
it's a huge field for everyone, and there is a place for everyone. You just need to figure out where you sit in.
Thanks so much, Idali. Okay, so moving on to the next question, right? I think it's more towards each of your roles. So maybe we'll get both of you to share what do you enjoy the most about your current roles, and then about working in your respective companies as well. So maybe we'll start with Min Yan first.
Okay, sure. So I would say that, okay, so let me share a little bit more about my role, right? Because I was just sharing in general what data science does for my company. So as Idali said, right, actually data scientists have like different roles. There are people who just do research. So they really just, train different kinds of models and look at how the models perform. There are also kind of machine learning engineers, which I would argue is in more and more demand. Data engineers and machine learning engineers, because not only do you need to create a model, you need to find some way to make this model accessible. So maybe you host it on a website or something like that, so that business users can actually use to make predictions. So I would say I do a mix of both. So I do the research of the training different machine learning models, and then I also do the deployment of these models. So I write some code to make magic happen, to make these models accessible for other people. I would say that what I really quite like about my role is that you actually get to work on, a wide range of different data sets. So like, for example, previously, right, I was working in the financial service. So meaning the kind of data I will work with is the open price, the close price, like, when a stock starts trading in the market and then it stops trading at the end of the day. And there's a lot of price data and a lot of volume data. So it's really just that. But then in Gojek, like we actually learn more about the customers, right? Like, are you a female? Are you a male? Do you, what's your age group? Or like, for example, do you only like to use like the transport app, or do you like Grab food as well? Like, so Gojek also has kind of their food arm as well, just that it's not very prevalent in Singapore, but we are kind of dealing with data from all markets like Indonesia, Vietnam. So it's like the whole Southeast Asia data. Yeah, so it's like super exciting. Yeah, and I would say that since you mentioned in our companies, right? So while I'm a data science in Gojek, like I really enjoy teaching kind of programming and machine learning with others as well, because I think it is really helpful to kind of wrap up, like consolidate my knowledge and also like share this with other people who may be interested, but then they see data science is something that's so intimidating and hard. So like it's really my passion to like just share this with other people and tell them that you can do this if you truly are passionate and you have the grit and perseverance to learn it. Like you can trust that you will learn something like very, very helpful in your career. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks so much, Min Yan. So from what I'm getting right from your response is essentially like the thing about you is that I think it's just the fact that to make data science more, accessible, and it's more like to ease that understanding of like what it is essentially. And it's not something that's very scary. So I think we'll get more into that further into the session. So maybe Idali as well, maybe you could share what is the thing that you enjoy the most about your current role?
Yeah, so my current role, like I mentioned, it involves product development. Again, what we do, I can't really go deep into what we do because of NDA, but we do a lot of like, we build a lot of new products that we sell to not just people in the financial sector, but also to other parties as well. So what we do is, again, we try to unlock the value of our data, right, into something else. So I would say the thing I like about my job is of course the the challenges that we have to solve every day. So things like if you want to do things like trying to figure out the impact of COVID-19 on say the airline industry, right? How would you do that, right? And what's going to happen in the next 1 year, given some some triggers, like say the opening up of a country to travel, blah blah blah,
So it's really fun because it's that your product or your analysis that you're gonna build is gonna impact like millions and billions of people. So that's that. I really like that, and I think that the other thing that I really like about my career is that it's very innovation centric. So it's not just about building something and deploy them out because it is a project that someone tells you to do it. So it's not that. So in my domain, it's more about, again, sitting down and thinking about problems beyond my company's specialty, right? It's beyond payment. So things like trying to figure maybe I don't know, like maybe my latest work that I'm working on is AI governance and privacy. So within that constraints, you think about, okay, how do I come up with the list of pain points, and then how would I address these pain points? So these are pretty fun because it goes beyond the realm of data science and analytics. You have to really think about the full spectrum or the 360 view of how a product is created. And then in my role as a data scientist, then I would provide both the analytical solution to a certain problem. So I would maybe create a prototype on my my computer, and then I would scale it up on our system where we would run again like a zillion number of predictions in a single time. But it's really fun. The other thing I would say that would be fun about my career would be also working with lots of young people. Data science is a field, when it comes to like analytics, the quantitative side of things, it's one of those fields where the number of years of experience that you have doesn't correlate to how productive you are. And in fact, I feel that the younger folks are usually more productive because they're more in tune with the current tools that are available in the open source world. They are more in line with the latest trends, technological trends, and it's really fun. And it is an immersive experience, I would say, when you work with younger folks, because you get to learn a lot more. And again, yeah, so I would say that is the most fun part about my career again. So like I mentioned, just because you're young, just because you're fresh out of school, doesn't mean you're nothing compared to, like, say, a seasoned 20-year data science professional. In fact, my team, which is made up of like people with under 2 years of experience, we participated in a global PyTorch hackathon, and we came up with a prototype, to solve data privacy or data bias issues, and we won like literally the first prize, right? So if you think about it, it's pretty amazing, right? It's a huge competition, a global competition run by a group of like kids with just 1 year worth of experience. So I think that the beauty about data science, it's a very fluid industry where it's things are ever changing. You always have to be on your toes, right? And you're always learning something new, solving new problems, and and that your solutions or your product would have a huge impact on your clientele.
All right, thanks so much, Idali, for sharing. I think the part when you said like your team is you have a member on your team that's less than 2 years of experience, and the whole fact that like just because you're young and you don't have that much experience doesn't mean you're as productive. I think that would definitely spark something in the viewers that are watching this morning. So on that note, right, is there any advice that you would like to give to youth who are interested in pursuing a career in data science and analytics? So
Right.
maybe we'll start off with Idali, and then after that towards Minian.
Right. Specifically to product development, if you're thinking about innovation, right? Again, in my team, we don't do things that we are assigned to. We innovate, we come out with new products, we work on that. For that, I think what is really important beyond of course, the necessary skills in both your quantitative skills, I would say your ability, you need to wake up in the morning and tell yourself it's okay to fail, right? It's if you're in the field of innovation in data science, right? Two things that you need. One is you have to be ready to fail. For example, I will talk about a patent application that we recently submitted. Like, just for one, innovation idea, we will come up with like 200 different ways to solve that, of which 198 of them would like fail, right? Because of reasons, because of infrastructure reasons, deployment reasons, scalability reasons, data privacy reasons. But people don't remember that. People remember the one that you push through the finishing line. So I would say the most important thing would be the spirit of innovation through the I would say the lack of fear of failing. So it's okay to fail, right? It's more about persevering. If you believe in something, work towards it, get feedback, and improve it. So that's one. The second one I would say would be embrace diversity. So like I mentioned, my team is just a team of like not just of I have like a pretty distributed team and pretty well mixed influence, not just young folks, but it's all about embracing diversity. So like we have folks who are their training is in economics, their training is in like strictly computer science, and even for me, my training is in electrical engineering, ECS, electrical engineering, computer science, and environmental engineering, and civil engineering. So I know nothing about finance if you think about my skill set, but we know that all the different aspects of all the things that people bring into the table, we need to fully embrace it, right? Because diversity solves your problem. So these are for me the two really important things when it comes to innovation in data science and analytics. And if you adhere to these principles, then you're pretty sure to do well.
All right, thanks so much, Idali. So just to summarize it. So firstly, it's okay to fail in terms of especially when your job is more on the innovative space, right? And then secondly, is also to embrace the diversity, especially working in the team as well. So maybe I'll go over to Min Yan. So is there any advice, for young people interested in pursuing a career in data science?
Okay, so I'll take a shot at this question. I would try to tailor my answer a little bit more to, the group here who are JC students. And I would say one thing that's at the top of your mind is oh my gosh, am I going to get into good university? And, I would say that actually, if you even have a tinge of interest in data science, the focus should always be to invest in yourself and not to invest in a piece of paper. Of course, it's important to have good math foundations and things like that. These will come in useful in future when you're just wondering your differentiation integration, except that next time there's a calculator that does it for you. You need to understand the basic concepts behind it. But beyond that, once you generally get that idea, let's say you just have a terrible relationship with exams, you just can't perform in time pressure, what should you do? I think the most important thing is to invest in skill sets, because everybody's going to graduate with a piece of paper, right? Like let's say all JC students have a piece of certificate, A-level certificate, and probably everybody who enters universities, most of them would graduate with a uni cert as well. So what actually differentiates you beyond the piece of certificate is the skill sets that you have. So there are soft skills. For example, for data science, sometimes you need to explain what your model does and why it solves an important problem. So, all your project work and all these going to come in useful, like your presentation skills and also your technical skills. So Idali talked a lot about coding, being productive, and these things can only be picked up when you pick up projects on your own. So a lot of people, I would say, if I were to give myself advice, back when, I was your age, is that there's actually a lot of pockets of time, especially, for example, after A-levels, where you have holidays. Of course, you can have fun, but definitely try to pick up courses to improve yourself. Learn programming if you haven't, and also try to start building websites and things like that. All these things help actually give you a skill set. And this is actually what shows doing an interview, right? Because I'm not just going to look at your on your resume, yeah, you graduated from this school with this degree, but I want to know how you are different from all the other people who graduated. So it's really helpful to, tell me about projects that you've done, or, just show that you do have the skill sets. For example, there are technical interviews where you need to code within a certain, limited time to solve a problem. And from that technical interview, it's very easy to tell if someone has been, working hard at just improving their skill sets, instead of just someone who says I'm super interested in data science or data analytics, but doesn't actually put in the time to get better at something. So I would say really walk the talk if you're truly interested in it, like take courses, try to do projects, like coding projects to improve yourself on top of, all the other like, papers that you need to collect, like A-levels. Just remember that that's only half the story. You need to be good in terms of like skill sets as well. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks so much, Minyan, for sharing. I think a lot of times we forget that, there's also the technical side of things other than just, the achievements as well to consider. So thanks so much for reminding us on that. Now we have a question in our chat, which is, is data science a stressful job? So maybe we'll get Minyan to answer that and then followed by Dali.
Okay, so I think firstly, stress, right, is sometimes it's like a choice that you make. If you let worry affect you unhealthily, then it becomes stress, right? Like you can have concerns and things like that, but emotional regulation is important. But what I'm going to say definitely is that if you're interested in data science and tech, right, it's like really, I can't say this enough. That's why I'm so passionate about tech. It's like one of the best fields to be in. Firstly, you can see on the newspaper articles, like there's so much demand for these talents. Like if you're really good at it, you can get a really decent salary, and the inflation on these salaries year on year is like quite high. So I'm not really sure how the market will be like when you join it. And also in terms of work environment. So I've been working from home since 2020, and I've not been asked to go back to the office. Of course, there'll be like team bondings, they'll encourage you to come to office, but it's not mandatory just because there's a lot of work that you can do actually remotely on the computer, as opposed to if you were a sales manager, like you need to go door to door and make sales. The nature of this job just makes it very, very flexible. So I know people who are working like remotely from a different country. Sometimes like they have family in China, like they can actually go back and continue working from China. So I would say that all these things contributes to that like work-life balance that a lot of tech people, I would say data science, data scientists do have. So I would say like that's the not so much in terms of the stressfulness. On the other hand, as shared, right, I think Idali and I like do like engineering like pipelines, right? So for example, we deploy a model, and this model is actually having impacts on like billions of users, right? Like for me, basically we give out like $1 million in voucher every week. So it's like if your model is doing badly and you're wasting this $1 million on users that don't use it, or so it's like really, really terrible. So when you have work that has impact, stress will naturally come with it. So you can actually think of it as a good thing, right? Because you're actually making an impact. You're not just like an indispensable person, right? You're actually contributing to a bottom line. You are earning a salary that you deserve because you are like helping the business in these amount of ways. So, sometimes when pipelines fail, as Idali said, accept failure. I would say it helps to be in a very nice, like very understanding team that is collaboration focused. Like people won't point fingers and say it's your fault. Everybody will come together to solve the problem. And I would say just be judicious in finding like a good corporate environment, like a good work culture and a nice team, and you'll be able to ride through the stress as well. And so not to worry too much about it. Just if you find a problem, solve it. And it really just means that there is impact. If the problem has big enough impact, just solve it. And you're on your way to like doing cool stuff in your career. And that's it.
Thanks so much, Minyan, for sharing. Maybe Dali, you can also share as well. Is a data science stressful?
Right. So before again, I'm representing a company, so I need to say some good stuff. So I would say to answer that question, Mastercard has won in the best workplace to be in globally for like the last 10 years, right? So within that that award, right? I work in the analytics department, right? And I would say if everybody's in that department, like everybody else in that in our organization are having a stressful, quote unquote stressful time, then my team is probably the one that has like probably zero stress. Okay, so it's I would say that it's not about stress. I think it's a part and parcel thing of every career, right? It's about managing stress. Meeting deadlines, trying to present your work here and there. But I feel that in data science is a field where if you really know what you're doing, the stress can really be managed. So like, things like, having to defend your work or, going to the office, things like that. If you can manage your work pretty well, then stress isn't really a thing. Now to talk about how work is like in the innovation arm of product development, I would say, yeah, I can't remember the last time I was at the office. In fact, I was in New York, and then there was a COVID happened back in early 2020, and I had to go back home to Singapore, and then lo and behold, I've never been back to the office ever since. I would say, like, stress, for some career you have to be right in front of the computer and work from 9 to 5, right? And the number of hours that you spend in front of the computer would correlate to your productivity. So for data science, again, if you know what you are doing, then that doesn't hold, right? So for example, I would say, like, how I work would be, I wake up in the morning, right? Write some scripts. I would, like write a huge bash script file that would run some Python scripts and some Spark scripts, right? And then I'll wait for my code to run. While waiting for my code to run, I will go to the gym, and then I would maybe do my groceries and prepare breakfast, right? And then at 12 p.m., all right, check on my code. So it could be like, maybe like I would work like productively for like, sorry, I could spend like 2 hours in front of a screen, and that could be my number of hours I spend every day. So data science, it's that, right? It's I would say it's stressful. Yes, it's stressful, but in a different way. It's not like it's not like I wake up in the morning and I can't sleep, that kind of stressful. It's more about whether I put my models are right, whether I can when I deploy them out, I would get the right response, so that kind of stuff. But they're usually managed pretty well if you follow a certain methodology. So if I would say that if there's a field that you want to be in that really values your productivity rather than the amount of hours that you spend on the screen or on the desk, then data science or data analytics is a terrific domain. Again, not just in the field of like analytics to someone's coding, but also for the other people as well, the technical program managers, the data privacy lawyers as well. It's a field, again, like I mentioned, it's you're always learning something new, and you're always meeting new people, you're always solving new stuff, and stress in this case is pretty minimal, I think. So my previous career, I was in academia, and again, I'm not sure what I told you, but I used to build machines, and then I used to bring my machines and go to a really weird part of the jungle, stay in the jungle for 4 weeks, no Wi-Fi, right? So that is stress, right? Like thinking about whether when you go to poop, when you go and poop, whether a scorpion or a centipede will bite you, right? Something that is stress, right? Or whether your machine will break down when you hike in. But data science, again, in analytics, if you have a pretty supportive team that work together to solve something equally and productively, then it's very easy to manage. So yes, there is stress, of course, but it's a really manageable one. So I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, there's no stress, right? No stress at all. It's gonna be a fun job. I'm gonna rake in, $200,000 per annum every year. No, there is stress, but it's unlike other careers. It's easy for you to manage. No, it's easy. It's manageable. There's a way to mitigate it, and there's a way to manage it. So
all right. Thanks so much, Idali, for sharing. We've got a couple of questions coming in for the Q&A part. So once again, to all of you watching, if you have any questions, just go ahead and send them in the chat or the Q&A section, and then we'll go ahead and answer it. So we have 2 questions in our Q&A, which are quite interesting. The first one actually is there a specific difference between a data scientist and a data analyst? And if so, what are these differences? So maybe we'll have Minya to share first.
Okay, sure. Actually, this is an interesting question. I would have shared it during common misconceptions, but I didn't want to overwhelm you guys. There is a related question about, do I need strong coding skills to be data analyst? I'll try to take that as well, so we can be more productive in answering questions. So firstly, data analysts are basically, what you see sometimes in Excel. Some of you know that we can actually build charts to visualize data, right? Like we can try to use pie charts, we can use bar charts. So data analysts actually work a lot on visualizing data. So data exploration. What you mean is what we actually see a lot of data analysts doing is like dashboards. So you may hear of technologies like Tableau, Power BI. I'll type them in down below. There are actually business analysts out there who cannot write a line of code. But that's it. I would strongly discourage against that. In fact, for all of you in this call, even if you do not end up in the data field, I would highly recommend that you learn a programming language, because people are actually starting to learn this in secondary school these days. And it's really helpful to at least have some tech literacy, because really that's where the money is. And also a lot of like people, like for example, I teach a lot of professionals coding, and they may not be going to data field, but they found that it helped to automate their job so much quickly. So like they can actually write scripts to do something that they will have to manually click every day. Yeah, so I would say that definitely it's not necessary for data analysts, depending on the team that you're in. There are some data analyst team that need to code in Python, or another thing is SQL, which is a database management language that is quite common in terms of coding, but not actually the kind of like Python or Java or C programming languages that you may be thinking of. So that's for data analyst. The other term was data scientist. So data scientists, unlike data analysts, so data analyst is more for exploratory analytics, and data scientist is more predictive, like predictive analytics. So what I mean by predictive is given some information, right? So let's say I have a customer come and like apply for a credit card. So I look at things like your credit card history, your age, and some things about your bank account balance. And I make a prediction on whether you are a fraudulent customer. Are you going to default on your loans? Will you pay me back, basically, right? So these are actually, I would say, another branch of analytics. I would say that basically makes predictions. So that's when actually a lot of engineering effort comes in. This is actually the field that Idali and I are kind of more aligned to, because we actually built predictive machine learning models to make this happen. So you can actually be either data analyst or a data scientist. I would say that you should just play to your strengths. A lot of people try to be a data scientist, even though their like coding skills are not so good, when they could actually be like a very competent product manager in a data product, and really actually get a decent salary out of it as well. Like a lot of people try to be data scientists when, it's just not playing up to their strengths. Another thing to add is something you may hear a lot of is data engineering. So data engineer, it basically does kind of what a data scientist does, but more the engineering side. So you may not be doing like research on many different types of machine learning models. Okay, so there is a researcher that does it and passes you this machine learning model. Now you need to make this machine learning model accessible by users. And that's what a data engineer will do. Like you will probably kind of get some data from the database, you kind of massage it in a structure that you want, and you put it into the model and you get the predictions out of it, rather than the research that goes into the actual model, which is, I think, what Idali and I do a little bit of as a data scientist. So there's data analyst, data scientist, and data engineering. Like it's like terms that are often confused with each other, and hope this helps clarify a bit of that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mia, for clarifying. Oh my goodness. I think this is definitely very helpful to all the users that are watching, so they are able to really identify the different roles, right, in terms of data as well. Okay, we have a specific question to Mr. Idali. I'm interested in becoming an engineer or a data scientist. What can I do now to get into my dream university, which is MIT, and what course should I take?
Right. So I'm here to solve my university. Yeah, that's a tricky one. So how do I get an MIT? That's kind of, well, it depends. If you want to go in as an undergrad or a grad student, the processes are different, and it's probably a conversation for another time. But I would say connections and networking. For the graduate programs, it's usually about the professors make the decision about who they want to put into their team, because it's more like a career. They want people to work on a project. And this is usually derived from networking and also the skill set that you bring onto the table. So it's almost like finding a job. For the undergrad thing, it's, you got to sit for your SATs, and then, it's another conversation for that. So I probably wouldn't answer that question. But the other question would be, how do I be a data scientist or a data engineer? So this, again, like I think Minyan raised a good point. These are two different fields, right? It's like saying I want to be an engineer. Do you want to be a chemical engineer or an electrical engineer? Two different things, right? So I think what you need to do is to sit down and think about stuff. I use someone, like think about like building a car. Like I use someone who likes to think about whether you want to solve an issue with the car by coming up with a solution. For example, your car is bumpy. So let's think about something to solve that bumpiness. Let's come up with like a system. So if you're into that, then a data scientist would be a pretty good field for you, right? But if you're someone who's like, okay, so say Idali, the data science person, comes up with this system, right? He thinks that it's going to work. Now, can you get someone to build it and see whether it really works and give us some practical feedback? Then data engineer would be a good field for you. So I think Min Yan gave us a very good overview about what the three fields are, but I would also like to add that in the tech domain, there's another field that a lot of people that is really expanding, and I think this is a good field if you're into data science, but you want to do a bit more on the computational side of things. So I am that guy actually. I'm the well in my company, because it's a new domain altogether, so we don't really have that job title. But I'm more of an MLOps engineer as well, even though my data science skills are pretty legit. So that's the machine learning ops people, or in some companies they call it machine learning engineers. In my company, we call it the data science engineers. So they sit between the data scientists and the data engineers. So what they do is they look at the models that are built by the data scientists and then see how they can tweak a little of this model so that it can be deployable by the data engineers. So for example, you look at a deep learning network, right? And like a feedforward neural net, look at some of the layers, and you see that, this layer is float 64 layer. Why is it float 64? If you move it to float 32, then it would reduce the prediction by, prediction time by, like, say, half a second. And half a second to 100 million people, that's literally like 20 days or something like that, right? So that's the field that you would also want to think about. So again, I think it's more about thinking about what you love to do, right? And then being part, and then work towards that role. Now, for most of the let's say being a MLOps engineer or data engineer, most of this are on you learn it on the job. Different companies have different tech stack. So like maybe in Gojek it works differently, maybe in Mastercard it works differently. So it's an art more than science. So you have to basically first get that job, right? Do well in school or whatever, and go for that interview, make sure your coding skills are great. And then when you join the company, then it's more like an apprenticeship. So you understand the infrastructure of the company, and then you understand like all the tools that this specific company is using. And then you move to another company, they use a different set of tools altogether, right? So I would say like machine learning engineering / data engineering, it's not, you can take some courses, but they don't really help because of the variance in the tech stack. But whereas in data science, again, I think the emphasis is more on the quantitative skills. So you can take classes, I would say. So I am an engineer by training. So I would say engineering is the best course to take, because it helps you to think about problems practically. Right. So I'm not trying to, say bad things about like people in science, but what engineering does, right? Be it mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, environmental engineering, civil engineering, is that you take what is in science and you put it into practical use. And this is what we want, right? Putting your models into production for practical use. So I would say engineering, study engineering. I know a lot of people don't like to do engineering. It's some people say the sunset industry, but it's not. Engineering is at the heart of everything, on your iPhones, on your on your credit card and everything. So engineering is a good field, people. Do it.
All right, thanks so much, Idali, for sharing. Okay, so we have a couple more minutes left to our session. Once again, to everyone who is watching, this is your last chance to send in your questions for Q&A. And then hopefully we'll be able to, just wrap things up around 11:20 to 11:25-ish. Maybe just for, just out of curiosity for Ms. Min Yan. So I know for Mr. Idali, you had your start in engineering, right? And then started out from NUS.
Oh yeah, so I did my undergrad in Singapore, and then right after that I moved to somewhere else.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I think maybe Ms. Min Yan, actually, maybe you could share specifically why did you decide to do, because I know that you did in SMU, information systems. So maybe you could share a bit, why did you decide to pursue your education in SMU as compared to the other local unis?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm very happy to share. So all of you will be, grappling with this question at some point. Some of you may have certain idea of universities that you want to go, and then maybe you get your A-level results and it's not really aligned. Like for me, I had a lot of choices. So I actually tried to apply to law school, med school, just because my good friends were doing that. But actually what I realized was that I was looking for a discipline that was a good mix between science and the arts, right? So in that, some of you may be from science or art stream. I was full science stream, but I realized I actually do enjoy the creative side of things. And also I'm quite a communicative person. So I wanted to find something that was a good intersection of both. And at the same time, there was a lot of scholarship applications going around. So how I stumbled into this was actually kind of just by chance that I found that there was an IT scholarship. And then at the same time, I realized that, hey, programming is actually quite cool, right? Because it's kind of a sciencey field, but at the same time, you can create things out of it, and you can use your personality and your creativity to make impact based on the technology. So that was actually why I chose to do information systems. I understand right now SMU does have computer science, so I would actually recommend that more. Just that at that time they only had the information systems degree. So I would respectfully disagree with Idali. As in, I think engineering is definitely super cool. If you are interested in engineering, definitely do try it. There are different aspects of applications, like mechanical engineering, civil engineering. But I would say that if you're super sure that you're interested in building, software applications and things like that, I would say a more direct university background that you might want is kind of computer science. Basically, computer science or a software engineering degree. And this actually allows you to starting from the first or the second year, you actually start to learn how to build web applications and things like that. Of course, I wouldn't suggest that you rely too much on the degree. So I know of people who studied accountancy or something like that, but they're even better programmers than people who study software engineering, because they are very resourceful. They they find ways to improve their skill set. So I would say, really going back to what I shared, it's really not about what university courses you take. Of course, most of the time, right, you may be an accountancy student, but you actually have opportunities to take courses from other schools as well. This is not only the practice in Singapore, but also in other US universities, if you do enroll in them. It's really about crafting your own learning journey and not letting the degree dictate anything. There are people who actually wanted to study accountancy or something like that, but they didn't get to get an A-level results that was good enough. I would say that if you're truly passionate and you're not just there to get that piece of paper, you could actually enroll in maybe a different school, but still manage to take courses from there. So I would say, don't limit your mind to what the system has told you to do. If you're truly interested, you can definitely make it happen. There are opportunities to enroll in courses in a variety of different schools, and you'll be able to learn what you want to. I mean, of course, you have to take your core courses, but there's always going to be an elective side, and you can choose the courses that you're most interested in to kind of improve your skills and learn stuff that you're interested in. Yeah, so that's what I would share. For me, I basically was I started out it's part of the scholarship because it was offered as part of the university. So I started in SMU as an information systems student. And then I did a fast track master's, which is a 4-year bachelor master's degree. So I spent 2 years in Singapore and 2 years in Carnegie Mellon. And that was the time when, I did some machine learning research, and I took more computer science related courses, and I did an internship in Silicon Valley as well. So that was really fun. I would say, since there was some interest in overseas universities, what I would suggest is for you to look at taking the SATs, as Idali shared. And I would say, don't be too hung up on one college. Don't reject yourself before others have. So really just send your applications to a few if your budget allows, and just take pick whatever comes, I would suggest that actually if you're interested in working in the US eventually, it is helpful to get a head start by enrolling in a US university because of the F visa. It's just easier to join a company as a fresh grad if you had graduated from a university in the US. But if you're like not like super looking to work in the US, it's totally fine to study in Singapore. And what I found, a lot of my peers, they actually graduated in Singapore. They got a job in the US directly, or they would join a multinational company in Singapore, like MasterCard, for example. And if you do well, after a few years, you could actually kind of speak to the HR and say, hey, I know you have a presence in the US or the UK as well. I have a girlfriend or boyfriend there. Like, can you move us there? So I've heard of so many stories where people actually do internal transfers, and you just need to be strategic. I've worked in a lot of MNCs, and I've seen that happen like a lot. Like, you can actually like work in a different country if you are doing well currently in your role, and yeah, you just need to like do well, and after you graduate, like you can plan along the way. So I would say don't be like super restrictive to tell yourself that I must do this or that, because really, if you put your mind to it, there are actually many different routes that lead to Rome. Yeah, it's just the path that you take for that. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Vinyan, for sharing. I think whatever you just said will definitely give a very fresh perspective, especially in terms for those who are planning to study overseas as well. So I hope you guys took a little note from there. Yes, Dali.
Something about things, right? So again, I disagree with the computer science things. I think it's more about your interest in which aspect of the system you want to be in. So like over at MIT, we don't have a computer science department. We don't have an electrical engineering department. We have an EECS department. And these two departments these two fields are intertwined. You want to build a robot, you need to know some computer science and some engineering, because you want to get that the food to move, right? Anyway, so it depends on what you like, right? So I think that's the answer that we should have. The other thing for me, it's more about going to American colleges, and and that is the gold standard for a lot of people. My answer to that is no, right? So if you just do a quick search of all the professors in Stanford, MIT, Harvard, most of them didn't actually go to MIT, Stanford, or Harvard during undergrad, right? One of my best professors I've ever met, his undergrad was at University of Khartoum in Sudan, right? Because he was studying mosquitoes. Is he or quote unquote like less smart than someone who goes to MIT? The answer is not, right? It's not the answer. So I would say it's not about the dream school that you want to go and the country that you want to work in. It's not that. It's more about finding a school that aligns with two things. One, aligns with the direction that you want to be in, and number two, and we have to be pragmatic, right? The amount of money that you have to pay and the returns, right? American colleges are pretty expensive. Other than, I think MIT doesn't really care about how much we have a lot of financial aid, but other universities no, right? It's like literally $100,000 American dollars a year for 4 years. So if I come from a working class family, obviously we can't even afford like a car, let alone a American degree for half a year. So to talk about scholarships, right? Again, come from a working class family. In fact, I'm like the first in my family to get a degree, a bachelor's degree, let alone a graduate degree. So we don't have that resources. Like I don't remember my mom telling me, "Hey, Idali, you should get a scholarship." So I don't even know what a scholarship is. How do you think about that? So I would say the thing is that you have to, what you need to do, right? As you should look at the resources that you have at hand and try to maximize it, right? Singapore is a great place for you to be who you are, right? There's a reason why a lot of companies are investing in Asia, right? And you see that there's a huge move from what's happening in the West towards Asia, because there's a huge potential. Tech companies in China are doing things that are on par or even better than the banks. It's just that you don't heard of it, right? You just go to a summit, like a TensorFlow Dev Summit. We talk to the people who are doing tech stuff over there. It's amazing. There's a reason why TikTok is overtaking Facebook right now at its trajectory. So I would say, yeah, Silicon Valley, it's a beautiful place to be in. I've been there. It's great. I got a job there right after my grad school. But I was just thinking about, where can I maximize my full potential? And Asia is where is that? That's the big pivot, right? So I would say that's really no. I mean, if you want to, that's your dream. But I would say in Singapore, right, this is the best place for you to be in. We have a very supportive government that gives you a lot of funding both to yourself and the organization or the companies that you're working in. In fact, my company, most of our funds come from the EDB. We hire people through an EDB funding because we know that the folks in Singapore are brilliant and we have that capability. And yeah, I know we've been doing great stuff. We're living in a time where, like a conversation with someone in the US and Prague and Dublin is just a phone call away. So location doesn't really matter. In fact, the taxes in Singapore, it's really low. You will want to be in Singapore. So long story short, I would say a lot of my friends, both in my company and within my network, they're trying to angle their move to Asia for two reasons. One, we are the next big frontier. Number two, pretty low taxes, right? So yeah, it's do what you can within, and think about the resources that you have. You want to maximize it, right? Reach out to people, reach out to Minian, reach out to myself, right? See how we can help you, right? And then, take your dreams further. And I'm pretty sure if you work towards it, you can find it. But that doesn't necessarily have to be in a, top 5 colleges in the US, right? So, I was watching these. I'm a big fan of John Carreyrou and his book about Theranos, right? Elizabeth Holmes went to Stanford, full stop, right? Does that mean he's, things like that, right? You could go to like, any other university. It doesn't matter. You could go to like a ranked 500 university, but is it way better than like the world's number 1? I don't think so, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks so much, Idali. All right, thanks so much once again, Minian and Idali. My goodness, really, thank you so much. Your perspectives and just your experiences are really, really helpful. I'm afraid that's all the time that we have for today. Really, we have 2 minutes left to the webinar. Once again, thanks so much for sharing, Minian and Idali. Really appreciate it. So we'll take these last few minutes, or especially to the students, we will share a screen and we'll show a QR code. So just give me a moment. All right, so the QR code that you see on screen, do send us your feedback, and this also doubles as your attendance as well. So do take note for that. And once again, thank you so much to Minian and Idali. Really, I had so much fun being in this session. Genuinely, I learned so much from the both of you. So thank you so much for being with us this Saturday morning.
Thank you so much, and hope to see all of you again.
All right, thanks so much. Yeah, have a good morning. Well, the rest of the morning at least.
Take care. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dear students, please do take note of the feedback form.
Hi, Miss.
Recording
Miss
stopped.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Miss Steffi. Hi. So we'll just leave the QR code until about 11:32 until the participants are relatively low, and then after that, then after that, both myself and Darius, we will take our leave after.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. No worries.
Dear students, please ensure you complete this this survey form, this feedback form. And after that, you may take your leave from this session. We wish you a good Saturday ahead. Thank you so much for your time in our career symposium, online career symposium.
Okay, it's about 11:32. So thanks so much, Miss Steffi. So both myself and Darius will take our leave.
Yes, thank you. We may end the session now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.